Welcome to Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Better late than never as we welcome you to Busch Stadium here in St. Louis for the third and final game of this series between the St. Louis Cardinals and the visiting Texas Rangers, who are trying to sweep the series after wins last night and Friday night. It has been a long night of torrential rain at times, a lot of lightning and thunder, and all kinds of discussion back and forth. Could they play? Would they play? If not, when would they play to make up this game? But the rain has, for the most part, subsided. Still a light mist falling here in St. Louis, but the tarp is off the field. They've been doing some work on it. And we're getting ready for baseball tonight here in St. Louis. Here's the National League Central standings. The Cardinals have the best record in all of baseball, but they can't shake the Pirates and Reds. The Pirates won again today in extra innings over the Angels, just a game and a half back. Meanwhile, the Rangers are going to battle in the American League West with the Oakland A's as they have traded the lead back and forth at various points during the season. On the mound tonight for the St. Louis Cardinals and on his way in for the bullpen, getting ready to start this game. Better late than never, about 3 hours delayed, is Adam Wainwright, one of the very best in baseball. So we will have baseball tonight. Sure didn't look like it, guys, about an hour or two ago. Talk about what you guys have seen transpire here in the last 3 hours.
Well, a lot of sitting around waiting for us and listening to Peter Pasquarelli stories. But other than that, it has to be tough on the pitchers. When do you go out? When do you know you're ready? The first inning is going to be a big indicator to me. Are these guys loosened up after this long wait? And if you're going to get, especially Adam Wainwright, you better get him now.
And as a position player, I always tried to relax until that point of, all right, it's 30 minutes till. Then you start ramping it up. But with these teams, especially the veteran players, important that they get their legs loosened up and are ready to go at this late hour.
All right, Crucky, now that we know we will see Adam Wainwright, let's talk about this remarkable season that he's putting together.
Well, he's the definition of an ace, Dan. He's going to give you innings. He's going to go deep in the games. He's going to save your bullpen. But what he does is he gives your team a great chance to win every start. 10-4, 2.37 ERA, 7 1/3 innings pitched per start. And this is a guy that's coming off of major surgery to his elbow. You see the strikeouts to walk. 100 strikeouts, only 9 walks. Texas Rangers better grab their bats and swing early, because Adam Wainwright, once he gets ahead, he will put you away.
And by the way, of those 9 walks, 2 of them are intentional. Only 7 unintentional walks in 15 starts this season. A Texas lineup that has not been doing very well until the last few days, and maybe that coincides, Moody, with the return of Ian Kinsler.
Yeah, Dan, Ian Kinsler is the absolute catalyst for this Texas Rangers offense, and they struggled when he was out 25 games. He gets on base, he hits for power, he has speed at the top, and another thing it does, it moves Elvis Andrus, who struggled in the leadoff position, to his more comfortable spot in the order in the number 2 spot. I think they start hitting the ball like we're used to seeing the Texas Rangers because of, as Jeet Wash puts it, the straw that stirs the drink, Ian Kinsler.
Made a comparison to Reggie Jackson when we asked him about Ian Kinsler much earlier today. Let's take a look now at the starting lineup for the Texas Rangers tonight. Brought to you, as always, by Taco Bell. 9th in the American League at runs scored on the season. One of the reasons of slumping Elvis Andrus. You expect him to have better numbers. You expect them to have better numbers. But one guy who is swinging the bat very well since recently being moved into the 3 spot in the lineup is Nelson Cruz. And in the 2 games in this series, 4 for 9 with a home run and 5 RBIs. You look at the names, it is still a potentially potent lineup. Adam Wainwright making his 16th start, trying to become the first 11-game winner in the National League. And just some outstanding numbers. And again, you look at that strikeouts and walks and you say there must be a misprint. But those are his real numbers on the season.
Yeah, it's been a historic start to the season for Adam Wainwright. The full repertoire, fastball, cutter, slider, curveball, and change. Coming off a tough outing against the Cubs where he struggled in the first inning. If he can get through the first inning, like many aces, he's usually on his way to a big outing.
And here we go after a delay of almost 3 hours. Baseball in St. Louis. First pitch swinging Kinsler. Cosma back on the outfield grass, 1 down.
Well, if you don't think players don't look at numbers and digest the numbers of a great pitcher, they know Adam Wainwright doesn't walk anyone, and that could be a detriment to Adam Wainwright, but it also could be a plus because he's going to get guys swinging early. He threw a quality pitch right there in on Kinsler's hands to get him jammed, pop him up. But he will also, knowing that if you get behind the count 2-0, 3-1, he's going to come in with a strike, and you better be ready for it.
Here's Elvis Andrus, the shortstop, hitting .240 on the season. If Wainwright has had a weakness this season, guys, it's been the first inning. And in fact, in his last start against the Cubs, he gave up 4 runs in the first inning. That's all that he gave up. So maybe a case, is, as you guys have said, of get him early or don't get him at all. Officially a 2-hour, 59-minute weather delay here in St. Louis. The Cardinals trying to salvage the final game of this 3-game series. Fly ball to right field, carrying to Beltran. Wainwright, for a number of years, kind of the Robin to Chris Carpenter's Batman in this Cardinal rotation. Carpenter still trying to work his way back from that nerve problem, and through yesterday, and hopeful to get back again and resume his career with the Cardinals. But Wainwright has stepped into that ace role, both between the white lines and in the clubhouse as well. Carpenter still a very, very large presence on this St. Louis team, of course. Good sharp breaking ball for a strike. Nelson Cruz, the batter, back here in St. Louis, as fans of both franchises will remember well. This is where the 2011 World Series ended. Games 6 and 7, and it wasn't a game 6 when David Freese hit the ball just beyond the outstretched glove of Cruz in deep right for the triple in the 9th that would tie it. The Freese homer would win game 6 in the 11th, and the Cardinals would go on to win the World Series the next night in game 7. Broken to bat base hit for Cruz, and he's now 5 for 10 in the series.
Well, Dan, that was the cut fastball there away after 2 good breaking balls, his first 2 of the ball game. I kind of get the feeling, because Wainwright is such a student of the game, as we get a look at this cut fastball on the outside corner, down and away. Nelly Cruz, a very hot hitter, hits this ball off the end, but able to pound it through the hole on the right side.
Now Adrian Beltre.
But this Texas Ranger offense has started to come to light, and it started to happen this weekend. They've been very aggressive on the fastball, and as a result, Wainwright being the student, I think he might go to a more steady diet of breaking balls to try and combat some of that aggressiveness from the Texas Ranger hitters.
Now, the only pitcher in baseball who has thrown more curveballs this year than Adam Wainwright is A.J. Burnett of Pittsburgh. Wainwright throws curveballs about 26% of the time. And a rarity here, a 3-0 count.
I'd turn him loose.
Yes, sir.
2 outs, why not?
We could see the back knee down in the dirt on this swing, huh? Took a strike, 3-1.
I just think that's just the reputation of Adam Wainwright. You know, he's not going to walk you. We know that. 7 walks unintentional, only 2 intentional walks. 3-0, that might be the best pitch you get in this at bat.
Time called just as Wainwright was beginning his move. Popped him up, shallow right center. Beltran, and the inning is over. We will see Carlos Beltran batting number 2 in the Cardinal lineup when we come back to the bottom of the 1st. presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. And in part by Nissan, innovation that excites. And Travelocity, the world is waiting. Go and smell the roses. Bottom of the first here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Mike Matheny's Cardinals with the best record in all of baseball, but trying to avoid getting swept here by the Texas Rangers this weekend. Let's take a look at the Cardinals starting lineup tonight, brought to you by Taco Bell. And Carlos Beltran having another big year. He is in a free agent year right now, but he's been so productive last year and this for the Cardinals. Alan Craig, 6 home runs, 58 RBIs, doing a remarkable job for the second year in a row, hitting with runners in scoring position. And Yadier Molina, just every year better and better. The leading hitter right now in the National League, leading the league in doubles, second in hits. This is a tough task for 24-year-old Nick Tepesch, making his 14th start. The last 3 have not gone well, as he has given up 5 earned runs or more in each of his last 3 starts. And he is facing the highest scoring team in the National League in the Cardinals. Matt Carpenter leads it off. Crucky, what's the key for Tepesch to have success tonight?
Well, talking to A.J. Brzezinski, his catcher, he said if he doesn't keep the ball down, it's going to be a short night for him. He's not overpowering. If he's elevated, he's going to give up the home run ball. If he keeps it down, he has a chance.
He's been up in the first 4 pitches. Got a couple of strikes, but he's been up. Let's take a look now at Dumore, brought to you by Safeco. The Cardinals kind of running the table offensively right now in the National League, and the big number is that one at the bottom, 339. Just a ridiculously high number for a team on the season to hit with runners in scoring position. A huge reason why they are the highest scoring team in the National League. Off the glove of Tepesch, he finds it and makes the play, 1 down.
And that's the slider right there, about 84 miles an hour. It's kind of a version of a cutter and a slider. And he's really struggled with left-handed hitters this year. If he can locate this pitch on the inside part to some of these lefties, he has a chance to tie them up, and that keeps them a little bit off balance. He didn't get it quite in as far as he wanted to, but Matt Carpenter there, you can see, got it a little bit off the trademark. And that, if he can establish that, that'll open up the outside part of the plate for that sinker ball to a couple of these left-handed hitters.
He throws that same spinning slider right there out over the plate. Beltran's going to give him a quick lead, and he didn't.
Bounces 1 to second. Kinsler will make the play. Out number 2. Tepesch, 24 years of age, from nearby Blue Springs, Missouri. Attended the University of Missouri, as did his second baseman Ian Kinsler, as did 11-game winner Max Scherzer of the Detroit Tigers, Aaron Crow of the Kansas City Royals as well. He was a 14th round pick back in 2010, and he is in the rotation, guys, because they've had so many injuries. Colby Lewis hasn't thrown a pitch for the Rangers yet this year. Matt Harrison had a couple of back surgeries. He's on the DL. Alexi Agondo is on the DL after some shoulder trouble for the second time this year. So this Rangers rotation doesn't look anything like it was supposed to look back at the beginning of the season. Here's Matt Holliday.
And John, now is the time he gets a steady diet of great right-handed hitters in the middle of this Cardinal lineup. And like you said, AJ told you, keeping that ball down, keeping the two-seamer, the sinker down is going to be paramount if he's going to have success tonight against this great Cardinal offense.
Pops him up. Tepesch directing traffic, racing down from first and making the catch is Moreland. And the Cardinals go in order in the bottom of the first. Adam Wainwright back to the mound, top 2 when we return. Field for the top of the second. Rangers and Cardinals here on Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Let's go down to field level now and find out a little bit more about the big right-hander with Buster Olney.
Dan, Adam Wainwright has a strikeout to walk ratio 11.1 to 1. If he carries that through the entire season, that would be the greatest of all time, and it's significantly better than what he had before he underwent reconstructive elbow surgery. I asked him, why are you so much better? And he said that during the time away in 2011, he fell in love with baseball again. He watched a lot of games. He said, I always ask the question, what makes this pitcher great? It's why he watched Cliff Lee and Chris Carpenter and Roy Halladay, and he determined it's because they attacked hitters, and that's what you're seeing this year. Dan?
All right, Buster, thank you. Remarkable numbers and a chance to do something that has only been done a few times in the history of Major League Baseball, and that is have more wins than walks. We'll show you. It's a very select list, and there's a lot of seasons still to come, but right now Adam Wainwright has 10 wins, and he's only walked 9 batters all season, and again, 2 of them intentional walks. So he is not going to beat himself. Here's A.J. Pierzynski, 36-year-old catcher for the Rangers, hitting .303 on the season. Looper to right field. That'll drop in front of Beltran for a base hit. Back to Wainwright and what we talked about. Pitchers who have had more wins than walks in an entire season. Deacon Philippi, 1910.
Sinker slider guy.
He did that with the Pirates. Christy Mathewson did it twice in his Hall of Fame career. And then the immortal Slim Sally did it with 21 wins and 20 walks in 1919 for the Cincinnati Reds. That is it. Others have come close. Oh, excuse me. Brett Saberhagen did it in 1994. Forgive me. Brett Saberhagen did it in 94. The only guy to do it in about the last 80-plus years in the strike-shortened season in 94 at 14 wins, 13 walks. Others have come close. Adam Wainwright, nearing the midway point of the season, is on pace.
You know, when only one guy is in color, you're on the verge of something special.
How about this? He struck out 35 batters this year before he issued his first walk. Some pitchers who have come close: Cy Young, Walter Johnson, Greg Maddux. I mean, you're talking about like the Mount Rushmore of pitchers here when you're throwing up these names.
I'm surprised Maddux didn't do it once.
Yeah.
Wainwright has finished second in Cy Young balloting one year, finished third another year. He's won 20, he's won 19. He's missed a year with Tommy John surgery.
You know, another thing I think makes it so special is this day and age when there's such a premium from opposing hitters to try and walk, whereas in past you didn't have guy after guy working the count necessarily like they try to do now. To still be able to fill up the zone as consistently he has is remarkable.
And to play devil's advocate, that might be why he could throw more strikes, because he knows guys take more pitches now, it seems like. I'm sure there's some data to back that up.
So we had a 3-0 count in the first inning, didn't walk a batter. Now he's 3-1 on Mitch Moreland with a man on here in the second. Full count. Well,
I know how you feel, little man.
The number one fan is what the foam finger says, but the number one fan is out cold.
You look like Aaron Boone during a rain delay.
Almost 3 hours. But a lot of people here. A lot of people stuck it out. Breaking ball fouled back.
That'll
help, huh?
Yeah, we should get some of that in here.
That's the best cure for a rain delay right there.
Rain delay was so long he got to go on a safari before he came in the old ballpark.
Three-two again. Hit hard, but right at the shortstop. Cosmo the second one, and on to first. Double play.
And that's the command of Adam Wainwright. Had him 3-1, threw a fastball middle away to get the foul ball 3-2 by Moreland, and then he threw him a breaking ball that he fouled off, and then he comes back with another cutter in on his hands. He hit it pretty hard, but perfect pitch to hit right to the shortstop.
Now David Murphy, the left fielder who struggled most of the season, hitting only .220. A guy who's got some pretty good credentials, has had some good years the last 3 years for the Rangers. Hit .304 last year. And he hits a ground ball to Cosmo. Wide throw, but the tag applied by Alan Craig to end the inning, and it'll be Craig leading it off for the Cardinals when we come back. Boone, Buster Olney. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell as Cardinal first baseman Alan Craig leads off the inning in a scoreless game. Craig got off to kind of a slow start this year. Didn't hit a home run in the month of April, but he still finds a way to drive in runs. Look at the RBI total, 58 on the season despite only 6 homers. And that'll happen when you hit .453 on the season with runners in scoring position. And last year, guys, he led the National League, hit .400 on the year with runners in scoring position. So is there such a thing as a clutch guy? And how often do you see it in a guy as relatively new into his major league career as Alan Craig is?
Well, I think we're witnessing it certainly with Alan Craig. You watch Cardinal games routinely. It just seems like the tougher the situation, when runners get out there in scoring position, his at-bats just get sharper and sharper. He's able to zone in. And I think one thing that really helps this Cardinal offense, Craig, Molina, Holiday, Freeze, they're all similar hitters from the right side. I mean, they like to get the ball out over the plate. They like to work the ball the other field. So, John, I think there's a lot of dialogue that goes on between these guys during the course of a game, how a particular pitcher's working them. And I think they feed off each other as a result.
Yeah, and when you watch Alan Craig, he has runners on base. He's not trying to hit the home run to left field. all he's trying to do is put the ball in play in the biggest part of the field, which is up the middle and the other way a lot, and that's how he drives in runs.
And he takes one off the left arm. And this is one thing that Ron Washington talked to us before the game about. Nick Tepesch, he loves his composure for a young guy, but when he's gotten in trouble, it's been because he hits a batter, and after that, kind of gets unglued a little bit.
Yeah, I think something that happens a little out of the ordinary, is he able to rein himself in? And that's where A.J. Brzezinski, obviously a veteran behind the plate, comes into play. And that's where Tepesch has to grow up, mature, really focus in on the next pitch. And that next pitch happens to be right now against the league's leading hitter.
And Yadier Molina batting .358 on the season. One around and it's 0-1. Hard to believe that this guy once was a .216 hitter, had a full season in which he hit .216. Now here he is, acknowledged, acclaimed as the best defensive catcher in baseball, and leading the National League in hitting as well. Boy, it looked like he kind of straightened up and was taken all the way on that pitch, and it's 0-2.
Yeah, you would hope he didn't think that the first pitch was a ball, because they did call a swing. It was a ball out of the zone, but they called the swing on him, and I think this shows you the confidence. He saw two pitches. You know, he's liable to take this sinker inside and hit a base hit to right field and go first or third with Craig.
I think he was so dissatisfied with his first swing that he decided, hey, I'm comfortable hitting with two strikes. I'm willing to look at one to make sure I see the ball off a guy that I have never faced before. I'll take my chances if he does happen to pump another strike.
Slider down and away, 2-2.
And that's the thing with the young pitcher like Tepesch. He had Yadier Molina 0-2. He got a gift on the first on a check swing, got called a strike. And now he's thrown two, as Kurt Schilling says, non-competitive pitches. One almost hit Yadier down and in, and then that slider right there was a foot outside. It's not a pitch that you even have to think about swinging at.
And that slider right there down and away, something these Cardinal right-handers so adept at staying on, staying through, working the right side. That's why I think it's going to be important, John, for Tepesch to be able to get the ball with his sinker in on these right-handed hitters. If he can command the inside part of the plate, he'll get some weak groundouts.
Full count.
The thing is, with Craig, Yadier Molina, they are so good at taking that inside pitch that's running in on them and being able to move their hands inside and just shoot that ball to right field. You see it all the time with these two guys, and you know, this might be a situation right here where Tepesch is going to go with his best pitch with his sinker. Craig's going to be running, and Yadier's liable to hit a grounder in that hole.
There goes Craig. It's sharply hit to short. Still time to go to second, and then plenty of time to complete the double play.
You see the pitch here by Tepesch. Looks like it is that sinker in, and it got in just a little bit on Yadier, who was looking pull because he was probably sitting on the sinker and just got in a little bit, and he rolled it over there to Anderson. An easy double play with he and Kinsler to Moreland.
So let me ask you guys about the strategy. The second baseman is covering. You would think, as you said, Molina's going to try to drive the ball the other way. Did they pick Kinsler to cover because the pitch was designed to be inside and they thought that Molina would pull it? Or was it
normally with a right-handed hitter you would have the second baseman covering? I understand what you're saying, but you know, and I think that's where Yadier will go back and look at that and say, okay, I got to shoot that ball the other way. But I think Yadier also said, okay, he's going to throw something middle in. The sinker's going to run in on me. I'm going to look to pull. But
in terms of covering, even with a guy like Molina, who you know likes to shoot the ball the other way, still normally the second baseman's going to do
I think with the sinker, yes, absolutely. And if he hits a sinker down and in on his hands the other way, you tip your hat to him.
David Freese reaches for it, pops it into center, And the inning is over. We'll have an update on the Rangers' rivals from the American League West, the Oakland A's, on the other side of this break. All right, guys, thank you. No score as we go to the top of the third. So the battle continues between Oakland and Texas in the American League West as Leonis Martin. It's a fly ball to right center, and Beltran elopes over to make the catch. One pitch and one out. Oakland is a half game back of Texas in the American League West. And they were actually ahead of the Rangers until the Rangers took 3 out of 4 from the A's earlier this week. And you go back all the way to just about a year ago at this time, 101-60 in their last 161 games. For people who don't see a lot of the A's, guys, how have they been doing this over the last half of last year, now the first half of this year?
Well, great starting pitching. Parker's really starting to pick it up. He struggled early. And, you know, to me, when you watch them, they're like the San Francisco Giants. They're not a group of superstar offensive players. Cespedes has a chance to be, you know, a really, really good player. And Reddick, you know, slow start, but they're a team, and they pull for each other, and they believe in each other. And Donaldson comes up with clutch hits a lot for this team. He's having a great year, an all-star type of season so far. And you know, that's what they do. They have one or two guys have really good years, and the rest of them contribute as much as they can, and that's how they win ball games.
Let's not forget what's been an outstanding bullpen anchored by Grant Balfour. They are able to shorten ball games, match up left, right. Bob Melvin with a lot of options at the back end of that bullpen. It's been a staple for them over the past 12 months.
Back to the top of the order for Kinsler. If you're just tuning in, yes, this is live Sunday Night Baseball here from St. Louis after a rain delay of 2 hours and 59 minutes. The Rangers and Cardinals and a good number of fans, even the young fans, sticking it out through the weather delay here to see their beloved Cardinals try to salvage the final game of the series with the Rangers. We've gotten big nights from Nelson Cruz Friday night and last night to win the first 2 games. Some are asleep, some are awake, and some are in kind of a state between being asleep and awake where it's really tough to know what's going on.
It's really, we're still in a feeling it out mode. People are trying to get back into their game mode. I think even for some of these hitters. I'll get there. I'll get there.
He's waiting for some more rain.
Kinsler takes at the knees, 2-2.
You know, guys, I think that series where Texas won 3 out of 4 against the Oakland A's, I think that was one of those early season big series for Texas, who was kind of reeling. Oakland had been having their way, especially when you go back to how the last season ended. And remember, in game 1 of that series, Oakland ran out to a 6-3 lead. Texas was really struggling offensively, come back to win that game and go on to win 3 out of 4. And talking to Ron Washington yesterday about that, he agreed. He said this is one of those games that's going to define our season as much as a game in June possibly can.
Rangers off tomorrow, which will be today soon enough. They'll start a series in New York against the Yankees on Tuesday. Kinsler pops it up in foul territory. Molina with room, and the inning is over. Wainwright sailing along, no score, going to the bottom of the 3rd. Bottom of the 3rd, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. No score, Texas and St. Louis. John Jay leads it off for the Cardinals and takes a strike from Nick Tepesh, the Rangers starter tonight, who through the first 2 innings has hit a batter, but that's all. Got a double play ball, so he's faced the minimum through 2. And he's in with strike 2 to Jay. Jay hitting .243 on the season, was hitting up at the top of the order earlier in the year, but after he struggled, Matt Carpenter moved up there, has done a great job. And Jay now finds himself hitting down in the lineup as he checks the swing. Chopper over the mound. Here comes Andrews. 1 down.
So far, so good for Nick Tepesh, but John Jay's a guy that had a big hitch in his swing, and he looks like he's taking it down a notch. I mean, that's a pitch that's up in the zone that he just beats in the ground, but his hands aren't dropping down. They were at his waist and then trying to get him back up quickly. Now it's just a little bit of a drop and then back up, and to me, that's going to be a swing that's going to last a lot longer than the other one was, because I would have to imagine a hitch that big, like Ike Davis, like Ben Revere, really guys that could have really slow starts.
Pete Kozma with a fly ball into center field, and quickly 2 down here in the bottom of the third. A chance for us to tell you about more baseball coming your way this week, including a ball game tomorrow night, Monday Night Baseball, presented by USAA. Aaron Boone's going to be there. You got about a busy 28 hours of baseball and airports here as you help bring us the Giants and Dodgers tomorrow night on ESPN2. Rangers and Yankees brought to you by T-Mobile on a Wednesday night, 7 Eastern on ESPN2. And 1 week from tonight, we will be at beautiful Camden Yards as the Baltimore Orioles host the New York Yankees. All 3 games also available live on Watch ESPN. The Orioles taking it on the chin this weekend. Adnan referenced it back in the studio. The Toronto Blue Jays have come out of nowhere to go from last place. They've now won 11 in a row, including a sweep of the Orioles, a team that they're trying to chase down, among others, in the American League East. And during this win streak, an ERA over 2, a microscopic bullpen ERA. Scoring runs like crazy. Adam Lynn's hitting about over 400 in the month of June. And all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, they're a factor again.
Well, and they're about to get Jose Reyes back, who was off to a great start. And Josh Johnson, who threw again today, back-to-back really good starts. He is starting to resemble the guy they hoped they got. That guy can really anchor a rotation. If he's healthy and pitching the way he did today, a great sign for the Blue Jays.
Swing and a miss. Adam Wainwright gone. And we're at the end of 3. No score here in St. Louis. We'll see the hot hitting Nelson Cruz for the Rangers in the top of the 4th. Bell. Top of the 4th at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Aaron Boone, and Buster Olney. The Rangers and the Cardinals in a rematch of the 2011 World Series. Adam Wainwright looking for his 11th win of the season, trying to join Max Scherzer as the only 11-game winners in the major leagues. He'll face Elvis Andrus, Nelson Cruz, and Adrian Beltre, the 2-3-4 hitters in Ron Washington's lineup. And quickly 0-2. .6'7" right-hander. Originally a part of the Atlanta Brave organization, traded as a minor leaguer to St. Louis, debuted in 05, and threw a big curveball to his now teammate Carlos Beltran as a reliever in 2006 in the National League Championship Series. Wainwright wound up closing for part of that year for the Cardinals. Swing and a miss at another curveball for out number 1.
Well, there was a look at the full repertoire right there. He started him with the fastball in for a strike, went to the cut fastball to get him away, and then finished him with that great overhand curveball coming right down at you. Starts it up around the shoulders. Andrews thinking that might be a strike, might even hang up a little bit, but that tall frame breaks it down and away. Turns into a feeble swing. Another strikeout for Wainwright.
So, Aaron, as a right-handed batter, stuff being equal, how much tougher was a 6'7" guy than a 6'2" guy?
I think quite a bit tougher. He's able to create an angle, a downward angle. You always hear that downward plane. And it felt like that as a hitter. Guys that were taller, that were able to use it to their advantage. When you're hitting a ball that's coming down at you, tilt as we used to call it, much more difficult to hit than a ball coming in there flat. Think in terms of if you're at home and someone were to underhand you a ball, much easier to hit than if someone were standing right in front of you and drop it from high. And that's what Wainwright is a master at creating.
Two and two on Nelson Cruz. Had a base hit, broken bat, base hit to right field his first time up.
You know, another thing Wainwright does, he's become such a master of his craft that he will tinker out on the mound. He'll tinker with his mechanics a little bit. At times he'll even shorten up his stride, and by shortening that stride as a 6'7" guy, you create even more of a downward look to that hitter.
Another swing and a miss on a curveball. 2 down.
Basically the same way he pitched to Elvis Andrus to get the strikeout, he did it to Nelson Cruz. I mean, just look at how big a break that is. Ball bounces in the dirt and you're still getting swings. And the reason why, Dan, is because he's 6'7" and he's throwing it, like Aaron said, down. And when a pitcher that tall throws a ball down as a hitter, it is really tough to pick up.
Fouled back by Adrian Beltre. The 6 pitches in the at-bat to Nelson Cruz, he threw 4 curveballs, and we mentioned that he throws 26% of curveballs this year. Only A.J. Burnett has thrown a higher percentage. More of a slider or a cutter there at 87 miles an hour, and the count is 0-2.
A hallmark of the Cardinal pitchers really for the last 15 years. When Dave Duncan came over, you've always seen a lot of big right-handed pitchers.
Beltre to a knee on a curveball, fouls into the seats.
And for the most part, their best pitchers have been guys that were tall, that could command the breaking ball in the strike zone, but then off of that vary the speed, vary the angle, and that's why you see Cardinal pitchers get more swings at balls in the dirt on breaking balls, I think, than any other team in Major League Baseball. Chris Carpenter, Matt Morris, you think of those guys, big, tall righties.
And Carpenter, a good 6'6", also a guy with a great curveball, hoping to work his way back to the active roster. Hooked foul by Beltre. It was a nice grab.
And John, there's so many different ways Wainwright can go now. He's shown him that breaking ball, some nasty ones. Now he busts them in with that fastball. Beltre spoils it foul, but now he makes him at least respect that pitch to get him off just laying off that tough breaking ball.
Adam Wainwright strikes out the side. Elvis Andrus for out number 1. Nelson Cruz for out number 2. And Adrian Beltre for out number 3. No score going to the bottom of the 4th. Specially formulated for men. And Cigna, you're one of a kind. Cigna, go you. Bottom of the 4th, no score. Adam Wainwright for the Cardinals. Nick Tepesch for the Rangers, trading zeros thus far. Wainwright just struck out the side in the top of the 4th. Tepesch has not given up a hit through 3s. Hit a batter, but got a double play ball. So it's leadoff man Matt Carpenter leading off the 4th for St. Louis. Hitting .317 on the season. Came into the game with an on-base percentage of .399. So giving the guys behind him a lot of opportunity to drive him in. And guys like Beltran, Holiday, and Craig have been doing that. Carpenter's been one of the real nice success stories for the Cardinals this year. Not a natural second baseman, but he's adapted to full-time play and second base and the leadoff spot. And he's doing everything very well this year.
Well, they were having an issue the first month of the season trying to find a leadoff hitter. Matt Carpenter stepped in, problem solved. May 1st, this team really struggling to get on base consistently. And right on cue, Matt Carpenter with the leadoff walk.
Let's get some FaceTime now. Brought to you by Edward Jones, Buster Olney with Ron Washington.
Ron, before the game, you told us that one of the concerns you had was if Nick Tepesch hit a batter during the course of an inning, he hits Alan Craig. What'd you see after that?
Well, I saw his composure. You know, he just came back to the next hitter and tried to execute the pitches that he had to execute, and he certainly did that.
As usual, Adam Wainwright with tough stuff. What kind of approach you want to see from your hitters?
Well, you know, just make certain that we get the ball up. You know, he got this big curve ball. He knows how to make it come all the way to the back of the plate. He knows what he's been getting us out with just there, the one that he throws in the front of the plate. He just got good depth to it, and we just got to make sure that it's up.
Ron, thanks.
Carlos Beltran, the batter.
You know, Dan, Ron talked about composure for Tepesch. Now is when that starts. He has had success all season long. The first time through the batting order, where he struggled, is the second time. The third time through, it's the second time through. Leadoff walk. Let's see how he responds to a great lineup.
And here are the numbers that Aaron was speaking about. First time through the order this year, 160. Second time, 268. Third time through the order, over 400 for the rookie. And And this is a Cardinal team loaded with experienced, intelligent hitters who know how to make adjustments.
And that's the key. They make great adjustments, and they're going to make adjustments here to Tepesh. And it's up to A.J. Przinsky to get him through these next couple innings the second time through the lineup by mixing things up and changing his patterns of pitching to him. But again, that all starts with strike one. If he's behind in counts, he doesn't have the stuff to blow it by you. You know, then you can pick and choose as a Cardinals hitter, you know, how you're going to approach the at-bat.
I always thought that rain delays like this must be, you guys tell me, must be tougher on pitchers than anybody else because they get in that mode, that zone, more than a position player. A starting pitcher is used to ramping it up once every 5 days, and then you got to sit around and you don't know if you're going to play, when you're going to play, and all of a sudden they say, okay, time to go out and warm up. Beltran hits a towering fly ball to right field. Plenty of room for Cruz. One down. Do you guys have any teammates, pitchers who are particularly unsettled by things like this?
Well, Dan, I think you're going to get an argument from two hitters here. I always think it favors the pitcher, and everything starts with them. So once they decide they're going to play, it's a half hour out. The pitcher knows he gets to control his routine, how he gets ready for the ball game. And I think as a result, the biggest thing you've seen through these first three innings is the pitcher's dominant. I think it's harder for the players to get into their normal everyday swing when you've been sitting for a few hours.
Matt Holliday, the batter. Would you guys go hit in the cage or hit off the tee during rain delay?
No. He might. No.
93 Phillies weren't doing that?
Yeah, no. We were doing other things. No, I played it like it was before a regular game. You know, a normal start time is, I usually played cards and talked a lot and got in trouble.
Got out of trouble. Holliday pops it up and foul ground, 2 down.
Well, you know, now the facilities in these stadiums are so good that there's so many different things you can do. And the technology today, you can watch video on a loop, and you can be in the video room watching things. You can be in a luxury cage getting yourself loose, in a weight room where you're riding a bike. There's so many different things you can do in these beautiful stadiums now to get yourself ready to go.
Yeah, you saw that cage at the vet.
Yes.
Not nice. The best part about the cage at the vet, they had a great basketball hoop set up out there. We did that more than we did hitting that cage.
Yeah, you shouldn't play basketball during the baseball season, John.
Well, yeah, you should save that for the off season.
Oh, yeah.
Seemed to work.
You went there, Aaron. Here's Alan Craig. I would guess, Aaron, during just knowing you as I've gotten to the last few years, you might have worked on some impersonations during rain delays. I mean, you probably let your guard down a little bit, loosened up a little bit.
You know, we even busted out charades.
Wow.
One rain delay.
What team was this?
That was with the Indians.
Yeah, don't tell that.
Yeah.
Don't tell on the Indians like that. Charades. My gosh.
Not a lot of charades with Dalton and Dykstra?
No, or Incaviglia. No. Or Hollins. No. No. I'll tell you this. It's probably going to surprise you, Dan, but during rain delays, I was really miserable. Yeah, I know it's going to shock you.
A little impatient, were you?
Wow. Yeah, and like 15 minutes into the rain delay, we calling Dave Montgomery to have him call the game.
Well, you guys told stories earlier that can be seen on ESPN Gamecast. Crucky played a doubleheader that wound up after 4 in the morning, and Aaron played in a game on the final Sunday of the season when he was with the Reds that had to be played. It was supposed to start at 1 o'clock local time in Milwaukee, and as I recall, having broadcast the game, didn't start till after 8 o'clock. It was about a 7-hour rain delay.
Yeah, final game of the season, 1999. We had to win, Cincinnati Reds. We had to win to force a one-game playoff with the New York Mets. So over a 7-hour rain delay, Old County Stadium, Milwaukee, laying around watching both the early and the late football games in what amounted to the biggest game of the season for us.
Did you win?
We won, but then lost the next important game of the season the next night.
The one-game playoff. I recall hearing that day, because it was raining so hard in Milwaukee, that one plan was to fly the Reds and the Brewers and the Mets to Cincinnati, and that you guys would play the Brewers the next day in Cincinnati, and then if you won, then you would play the Mets. And of course the Brewers wouldn't be thrilled with that. Their season was over. They just wanted to play that game and get onto the golf course. But there were all kinds of crazy plans being talked about because the game had to be played that day.
Hey, as someone who played 162 games and 162nd game was your 15-20 games out, yeah, that's the quickest game of the season.
Yeah, a lot of early swinging in that game.
Get out.
Alan Craig hit by a pitch his first time up. No score, bottom of the fourth. Tonight's rain delay 2 hours 59 minutes, but it's fine now. And it was coming down in buckets earlier. Full count. Pierzynski finds it, so Carpenter won't risk it.
I think AJ was going to try to pull a Yadier Molina and throw behind him. AJ got to stick to the game plan.
Durable guy, huh? 36 years of age and probably catches about as much as anybody with the exception of Molina still.
Yeah. And texting me during the rain delay to find out what's going to happen. Apparently he thinks
He thinks you're in charge, huh?
Apparently thinks I make those decisions.
Yeah. Carpenter on the move, and a swing and a miss by Craig to end the inning. We're at the end of 4 in a scoreless game here in St. Louis. Back in St. Louis, Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Aaron Boone, Buster Olney, researcher Peter Pasquarelli bringing you Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. No score, top 5. Slow curve, misses outside, ball 1 to A.J. Pierzynski. 36 years of age, hitting over 300. After so many years with the White Sox, still rooting on the Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup Finals. As he hits a ground ball out to Pete Cosmo, who's had a busy night so far, 1 down. Adam Wainwright on the mound for the Cardinals tonight. And as we mentioned, it was back in 2006 when he went into the bullpen. It was his first full season in the big leagues, and he became the closer for the Cardinals due to injury to Jason Isringhausen. Picked up the final out of the National League Championship Series, striking out Carlos Beltran, and then another curveball for a strikeout as the Cardinals win the World Series. And you knew he would eventually, even then, it wasn't like anybody said, well, he's destined to be a closer. I mean, even then, guys, you knew this was what he was destined to do, right?
He was the fill-in. Who can we have to close? Well, let's throw this rookie out there and see what he can do. But, yeah, they knew all along he was going to be a top-of-the-rotation guy. It's just in 2006, that's where they needed him most. And you know, that's the thing about this team is, you know, they have had a lot of guys go from bullpen to starter, back to bullpen, whatever, and they all accept their roles.
Yep.
And, you know, here's what we need. This is the best for the team. Okay, let's go do it. And that's why they're at the top or in the playoffs every single year in this run that they're on, because they're very unselfish.
Well, it seems like so often, guys, they have adversity for whatever reason early in the season, injuries or guys aren't performing well. But they figure it out. I mean, Mott gets hurt and they try Boggs, and Boggs doesn't work out, so they stick Mojica in there, and he's 21 for 21 in save situations. I mean, they just have a knack. It's not just a knack. They have a great system and a great culture, and they just have a way of getting through tough situations. As Moreland strikes out for out number 2.
And again, we see Wainwright varying that breaking ball early in the count, able to flip it in for a strike to get ahead. And then off of that same plane, just throws it a little bit shorter and gets another good hitter to go fishing for a ball in the dirt. And all Mitch Moreland can do is shake his head.
Quickly 2 down. David Murphy, the batter, as we go down to Buster.
Guys, earlier in the week, I talked to John Mozeliak, the Cardinals general manager, and asked him about Wainwright ascending to leadership. He said no one had to tell him. It's just something he did naturally. Now, Wainwright mentioned to me that he's filled so many roles, closer, working out of the bullpen, starting, and he said that when that opening came available, that was something he felt like he just naturally ascended to.
Into right field, a base hit for Murphy. Third hit of the night for the Rangers.
Well, Dan, you mentioned the culture of the St. Louis Cardinals, and I think that's obviously been such a huge part of their success. And think about the leadership. You start with Chris Carpenter passing on to Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina, Carlos Beltran, who's come over. These are all not only great players, but great people. And therefore, everyone that comes into this organization, whether they come up through the minor leagues, whether they come from another situation, when your best players are the best people, you're forced to fall in line, and becomes a very good culture or a workman-like attitude. And that's what it's been for years here with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Well, more players on their 25-man roster are homegrown than any other team in baseball right now. 17 of the 25 signed. Drafted and signed by the Cardinals. 19 of the 25 have only played in the majors in a Cardinal uniform. A great farm system and more talent on the way. You hear names like Oscar Taveras and Colton Wong. And, you know, a couple years ago, this guy named Adam Craig came up. Now he's on his way to driving in 100 runs. And, you know, Trevor Rosenthal out of the pen. Lance Lynn. Shelby Miller, rookie pitcher, having an outstanding season. And on the list goes.
But normally with the runner on first base being held by the first baseman, you wouldn't think a slow curveball would be the pitch in order, but that's the confidence that Wainwright has, and that's the deception that he has with it to get Martin so far out in front of it.
Bounces one in, 2-2, and even on a pitch that bounces, Molina comes up as if he might fire down to first.
Well, a lot of times as a runner, when you see a ball bounce, when you think it's going to bounce, you try to steal that base. You know, not steal it, but, you know, take that extra base. Or as Doug Glanville likes to say, that 90. Take that extra 90, and, you know, Molina comes up throwing, thinking Murphy might have bounced off the base too far.
Leonis Martin on an 8-game hitting streak right now has basically grabbed the starting center fielder's job. And Craig Gentry, incidentally, today went on the DL with a broken bone in his hand. But Over the last several weeks, Martin has been hitting better and better and has taken a larger and larger share of that job out in center field, trying to battle Wainwright. Swing and a miss at another curveball. Strikeout number 5 for Wainwright. We'll see his battery mate Yadier Molina leading off the bottom of the 5th. Bottom 5, Yadier Molina will lead it off for the St. Louis Cardinals. Still looking for their first base hit of the night. We're in a scoreless game in the final game of this 3-game series, the first 2 having been won by Texas. Time now to take a look at Hot Zone, brought to you by T-Mobile, and this is Molina against right-handed pitching this season. Anything red means in that area he's hitting 350 or higher, and Crucky, there's a whole lot of red there.
A whole lot of red, and that's why he's leading the league in hitting. But I think the amazing thing is you see that the 3 dots on the inside part of the plate, off the plate, that he hits over 350 on, and then you move it on the plate and he's below 250. So bad ball hitter.
Diving stop, Andrews got him.
Well, a great look at the tremendous range from Elvis Andrus. Looks like just a fastball out over the plate. The dive, and knowing Yadier Molina's running down the line, he knows he doesn't have to rush, and Yadi just looking out like, what are you doing to me?
I think that's the amazing thing with Miguel Cabrera last year winning a Triple Crown. The batting average part of it, where he's not going to get a lot of infield singles, and neither is Yadi.
And the first base hit of the night for the Cardinals belongs to David Freese.
I think the other amazing thing about Yadier Molina, and you just touched on it, John, is his batting average on some balls out of the strike zone. 333 this year on pitches out of the strike zone. And I really think that just is another thing that speaks to how intelligent of a baseball player he is, and a complete understanding of what a pitcher's trying to do, where a pitcher's trying to go with them. He sets his sight in a certain spot.
You saw those numbers. The major league average for all hitters combined on pitches outside the strike zone is 166. He's hitting twice that. He's hitting 333.
Maybe you got a better chance of throwing it in the strike zone like Tepish is doing tonight.
Runner at first, 1 out, no score. Bottom 5, and the batter is John Jay. This is trouble. How about that? How about that for an infield hit for John Jay?
Well, that's a speed hit for John Jay because Adrian Beltre had to be playing in on the grass, respecting the speed and the bunting ability of John Jay. But I think if you watch his highlight, watch his play right here, you see Beltre in on the grass, the ball bloops over his head. Now Andres picks up the ball, he looks at first base, and then throws to second. David Freese had to freeze on that ball because it was a pop-up. He didn't know if Beltre was going to catch it, so he has to freeze. Now, if Andres comes up throwing immediately to second base, he probably has a force out at second. Instead, he looked at first base first, and then went to second base too late, and now the Cardinals have something going.
First and second, 1 out. Number 8 hitter Pete Cosmo, the shortstop, is up with the pitcher Adam Wainwright on deck right now for the Cardinals. This is where the Cardinals have thrived this year, hitting with runners in scoring position, batting .339 as a team on the season in these situations. We keep waiting for the air to come out of that balloon, but the Cardinals keep putting up the numbers.
And think about how much more impressive that is playing in the National League, because you know your pitchers probably come up a few times with runners in scoring position.
Yep.
I'm sure they don't get hits every time. So, if that was an American League team, you think, wow, that's impressive. Or a National League team, unheard of.
We mentioned Craig's at 453, Beltran's at 444. And it goes up and down the lineup. Molina's got great numbers, Holiday's got great numbers, and even Cosmo's at 343. They're 49 points ahead of the second best team in baseball in these situations, the Tampa Bay Rays. And Crucky, when we saw the Cardinals a couple of weeks ago, one of the reasons you said you thought they were so good in these spots is they don't try to do too much, and all these right-handed batters think right center field.
And you can see the way that the defense is playing. Martinez shading Cosmo over to right center field, and that's the right approach. And because so many times the guy's not going to pitch you in for the fear of giving up the 3-run homer, so they'll hope you make an out away, but I see right there. Now, Cosmo tried to go deep right there.
Yeah.
And that's not the Cardinal way, and I'm sure he's rethinking that whole swing right there, thinking, wait a second, what's the game plan? Hit the ball the other way. This is a 2-seamer in on his knuckles, and he tried to leave right there.
And when you're ahead in the count as a Cardinal hitter, Tepish's one strength, that 2-seam fastball, sinking fastball, that's the one you've got to be disciplined and try and lay off when you're ahead in the count.
Chases down and away. A big strikeout for Tepish.
Well, let's take a look at how he attacked Cosmo. He fell behind him, something he hasn't done a lot on. We look at K-zone. Fastball in off the plate, trying to get that ball at ground ball. Then he goes down low in the zone, down and in. Cosmo's able to lay off. Then he swings over the top of that sinker. Then he goes to that slider that he starts off that same plane he was throwing the sinker, low in the zone, breaks it down and away, gets the chase, and Cosmo upset with himself. A wasted opportunity.
So now it's up to Wainwright. And in case you were wondering, Wainwright, who on the season is 5 for 37 with runners in scoring position. He's 2 for 10. Got a couple of hits in these spots, so even his numbers are better with a runner in scoring position than they are otherwise. He's a big guy. If he gets a hold on, he can go a ways. Bouncing ball to third, and Beltre applying the tag on freeze to end the inning. So the Cardinals can't capitalize as the rookie Tepish gets out of it, and we remain scoreless after 5. Cardinals are having. They're only a game and a half ahead of the Pirates, only 3 games ahead of the Reds. The Pirates have the second best record in all of baseball, behind only the Cardinals. Pittsburgh is 46-30. And the biggest reason why the Pirates have had so much success is their pitching. They lead the National League in ERA at 3.19. Cardinals are third at 3.24. The bullpen's been very good for the Pirates this year. The big question you wonder, guys, after the last couple of years, again, is this a kind of a first half tease, or is Pittsburgh going to get over the hump, stay over 500, and maybe even make the playoffs this year?
I think they at least hang around and are playing meaningful games in September, because I believe their pitching is for real. And now we're starting to see the emergence of some star players on the other side of the ball. Pedro Alvarez hitting for all kinds of power.
Yep.
Andrew McCutcheon's had just a so-so half by his standards. You would expect him to be the MVP candidate. A lot of us think he might be in the second half. I think this team, along with the Reds, along with the Cardinals, is going to come down to meaningful games come September.
Yeah, and I said it early in the season, I think the pickup of Russell Martin, because you look at the last couple years, when they started sliding, they continued to slide. And I think Russell Martin's the kind of guy that in a clubhouse, and I think he will be a guy that will get on somebody if he has to. I think he'll say something to his teammates, you know, if they're in a losing streak, and do something to help a team win a game. I really think that he's a key acquisition for the Pirates this offseason.
By the way, the Cardinals still have 14 games left against the Pirates this season. Let's go down to Buster.
And guys, one of the concerns for the Pirates as we get closer to the trade deadline is, will they be able to add some bullpen help? They did have some concern because Mark Melancon, Jason Grilli have been racking up a whole lot of appearances.
A lot of close games for a team that doesn't score a lot of runs. A lot of tight, low-scoring games. Meanwhile, Tepesch strikes out, number 6 for Wainwright, and all of them have come in a span of the last 8 batters, as Kinsler comes up 0 for 2. And a looper into left field, a base hit.
And the thing that makes Adam Wainwright the pitcher he is the ability to command the curveball, not only in the strike zone, but out of the strike zone with 2 strikes. Look at all these breaking balls. He throws, here's the first thing, look at the finger off the ball, but like the pitch right there to Martin is a curveball down and away. The one that he struck out Nelson Cruz was a curveball down and away. So he can throw the both sides of the plate with this curveball, and it looks like it stays in the strike zone for such a long time, and then at the last second it drops out, and that's why these hitters are swinging over top of it.
You know, another thing Wainwright does so well from an intangible standpoint is this is a situation where you're struggling to get offense. You've got a fast runner at first, 1 out, hit and run candidate. You might want to put the game in motion. Adam Wainwright has not allowed a stolen base in the last 198 plus innings pitched coming into this game. Yadier Molina, obviously a major deterrent behind home plate, but just one of those intangible things that a Cardinal pitcher, and a great one, does. Wainwright controlling the running game.
So none this season. This actually goes back to last July, the last time that an opponent stole a base with Adam Wainwright on the mound. Will Kinsler try?
Go. You see, that's a pitch they want. Looked like that little cutter down and away. Yadi's talking to the home plate umpire now, wanting that pitch. And you saw a little slide step there from Wainwright. Very quick to home plate. I would not be surprised, with as much strikes as Wainwright throws, that Ron Washington at some point puts a hit and run on in this situation. Jerry Meals, our home plate umpire tonight.
Now, Ron Washington has said in the past about his team, he wants them to do what they do. If he thinks they should run and he likes to run, he wants them to, regardless of the opponent. We'll see if Kinsler's feeling it. Not going, and it's 2-0.
Well, one of the reasons I like the move, as you see, 41% runners caught stealing, 48% last year. one of the reasons I like it is if Wainwright's obviously a strike thrower, you've got a contact hitter in Andrews who likes to work the ball the other way. The one pitch he's going to have trouble putting in play is the breaking ball, which may be the best chance to run anyway if you're Ian Kinsler.
Ball 3. So Wainwright, who's only walked 9 all season, only 7 of them unintentionally. He's 3-0 here with Kinsler at first. You wonder if the presence of some speed at first has diverted his attention a little bit because his command is so good. In with a strike, 3-1.
Well, what do you think, John?
This is action pitch for me.
Yes.
Kinsler's got to be running because Wainwright, he said 9 walks this season. He's not going to walk Andrus, and if they think Andrus can put the ball in play at all, you got to send Kinsler.
Going. Fouled off, full count.
And interesting there. Shortstop Pete Kozma covering on that play, respecting Andrus' ability to go the other way and the belief that that's what he's up there trying to do.
I think you send him again.
Absolutely.
You're not getting anything else going, so you might as well try this. But it's a smart pitch by Wainwright to elevate that fastball in. Tough pitch to hit on the ground.
Going again. And it's ball 4 to Andrus. So a rarity, a Wainwright walk.
I think Adam Wainwright was really happy with that call. I think he thought he had the 3-2 pitch to Andrus as a strike, and it rarely seemed any emotion on the mound, but he seems pretty upset with this pitch. It's a curveball on the top of the zone, but look, watch Adam Wainwright. He can't believe it. He called that a ball.
Well, I think he was upset too from the first pitch of that at bat, a pitch down in the strike zone that both he and Molina thought was a strike that they did not get the call on.
So the Rangers with a runner in scoring position for the first time tonight. And Nelson Cruz swings at the first pitch. And it's a fly ball to shallow left. Holiday charges in for out number 2.
Well, I have no issue with Nelson Cruz swinging at that pitch. He's been their hottest hitter. He's been their best RBI man. The fact is, Wainwright just executed a better pitch. He kind of threw a 2-seamer that he started on the inner half that broke to that inside corner, and he was able to tie Nelson Cruz up. See him looking at the bat, seeing where he got that, probably in on the trademark a little bit.
So 2 down now. Beltre takes a strike over the outside edge.
And this is where Yadi's so good too. Even with a veteran pitcher, you could sense that he thought Wainwright was a little frustrated from Andrus' at bat, where he thought he got squeezed a little from behind home plate. Now just make sure we're on the same page. Kinsler's had a long look at us for a few pitches now. Make sure we got our signs right and give Wainwright a second to compose himself, to lock himself right back in.
And he also called in Kozma and Carpenter into the conversation also, which is pretty rare for a catcher to go out to talk to a pitcher, but he called in the middle infielders to tell him, hey, we're going to change our signs right here. Here's what we're using, so they can signal each other and to the corner infielders.
And I know, Aaron, you were saying before the game that it's almost as if Molina's throwing overshadows the other defensive parts of his game, including just taking control of that pitching staff.
Yeah, we always talk a catch and throw, and he is the best in the business behind home plate defensively. He's obviously become a great hitter, leading the National League in hitting, but I think his biggest asset is what he does for this pitching staff night in and night out, from controlling the game, from a game calling, from a game planning standpoint. Remember, this Cardinal team has had 10 rookie pitchers this season, and they've all had major success, and Yadier Molina is the common denominator.
One, two. And Beltre fights it off.
You want to know how good a curveball is? Or how good Wainwright's stuff is? He fouled that off his back leg. I know you want to let it get deep, but that might be a tad too deep.
You see Yadier there asking for the ball up and in, but you wonder if he's trying to show that to Ian Kinsler to see if maybe he's relaying or if he's really going to start up there and then end up down and away. Let's see what he does. And Yadier knows he's got a very smart runner at second base, a veteran in Kinsler. This is a Texas Ranger team that's obviously been a winning World Series team. He wants to give them different looks, and now he plants that in the head. Maybe Kinsler's going to relay that to the veteran Beltre. All right, I'll set this up for later in the game. I'll go down and away.
Freeze has it. And Wainwright gets out of it. Scoreless going to the bottom of the sixth. Back twice from being a strike away from elimination in the World Series. A swing and a fly ball to left field. Greg's got room, and the Cardinals are World Series champions. You know, you go back into September, and the Cardinals, remember, had to make a late charge just to make the playoffs in 2011. Wound up getting to the World Series in this ballpark in a Game 6. We're down to their final strike twice. Once David Freese tripled in the tying runs in the 9th, and then Lance Berkman, who's now a Ranger, singled home the tying run in the 10th. And then in the 11th, Freese homered to win the game for St. Louis and set the stage for Game 7. The Berkman base hit's kind of lost in the in the history of the moment a little bit between the Freese triple and the Freese homer. And people forget Josh Hamilton hit that 2-run homer in the top of the 10th that gave them the lead. Then Berkman tied it with a base hit. 1 run was in already, and he singled home the tying run in the bottom of the 10th. But to twice be down to your last strike and to come back and win a game is something, guys, that in a World Series we'll probably never see again.
No, I don't think we ever will. And I think that just tells you, the resolve of the St. Louis Cardinals and why they're still in this position they are now of getting in the postseason seemingly every year. There's no quit in them.
And Lance Berkman might be the only guy in baseball to get away with what he's gotten away with this year. Now, as a member of the Rangers, he needles his teammates mercilessly about the 2011 World Series when he was with the Cardinals, even going so far as to interrupt Ron Washington in his season opening address at spring training in February. There aren't a lot of guys who are well liked to the point like Berkman is, where you can get away with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and my favorite one from Lance is the question he asked his Ranger teammates: was it more quiet after Game 6 or Game 7?
But there's
a fly ball to deep right off the bat of Carpenter. Gone. And remember, we mentioned Tepish's troubles third time through the order. The leadoff guy just got him when he came up for the third time.
And the amazing thing is he's now tied in home runs with the Cardinals' number 4 hitter, Alan Craig. That just tells you how these guys go about their business of playing a game of baseball. But, I mean, that's a pitch. He got jammed on the pitch before. He flared one, almost over the Texas dugout, and then gets one, the same pitch, and turns on one and hits it in the right field bullpen.
It's been a pitch all night that he hasn't handled. But again, another Cardinal hitter making a great adjustment.
Carlos Beltran, the batter, 0 for 2.
Getting back to the Berkman thing now, didn't he make comments during the World Series about the Rangers and
I would never play there?
Yeah, I would never play here. Because I asked him about it this spring when I saw him, and he said, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. He goes, I was hoping they wouldn't remember that. But that's the type of guy he is. He makes those comments, and then he goes in the clubhouse, the first meeting of the spring for the manager, and he brings up that.
Curveball from Tepish, his 4th strikeout of the night. Berkman is battling a bad knee right now. Wouldn't be playing tonight probably, anyways, in a National League park.
Well, good look at Tepish there, trying to get that fastball again in on Matt Carpenter, something he's had a lot of success doing in Carpenter's first 2 at-bats. But this time it leaks over the middle of the plate just enough. Carpenter pulls his hands in, and this time able to get the barrel of the bat to the ball. 1-0 Cardinals.
And that's the pitch that A.J. Brzezinski was saying. He has to keep the ball down. If that pitch is down at his knees or lower, it's probably a ground ball to Moreland.
Here's Matt Holliday, 0 for 2.
Or at worst for Tepish, a single to right.
Just the 3rd hit that Tepish has given up tonight. Didn't give up a hit until there was an out in the 5th inning. But he gives up the home run here in the 6th inning to Matt Carpenter for the first run of the ball game.
Well, so far you've got to like what you've seen with Tepish as far as bouncing back from the small adversities he's faced. In the 2nd inning, the hit by pitch came right back, got the double play ball. Then the base on balls to lead off the 4th for Carpenter, comes right back, retires the side. Now the home run, a strikeout, and now he's ahead of Holliday. So those little things that Ron Washington talked about where the game's gotten away from Tepish when something small has happened, has gone wrong, he's been able to manage that so far tonight against a very good Cardinal lineup.
And he knew he had to be awfully good coming in against Adam Wainwright. With Wainwright going on the other side, he couldn't afford to make many mistakes tonight.
And this is a big next 4 to 6 weeks for a guy like Nick Tepish, who was obviously on a playoff contending team, if he struggles at all and they don't get completely healthy in the rotation, you know they're going to be active in the trade market for a pitcher. So Tepesch, if he can go out and string together some good starts, really makes a case for himself staying in this rotation.
Well, let's go down to Buster and see what he can tell us. Are the Rangers sniffing around, Buster?
According to rival general managers, they are, and they think that eventually that they will make a trade for a pitcher. There, of course, has been a lot of talk that maybe at some point they would take a run at Giancarlo Stanton, but that would be a really big deal, and what other GMs think they're going to take a run at during the summertime, something smaller.
Holiday did not go. What are some names you're hearing, Buster, in terms of starting pitchers who may be on the trade market?
Well, the best guys out there are going to be Scott Feldman, who, of course, is a former Ranger with the Cubs. Matt Garza, possibly. Giovanni Gallardo is another pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers who might be available as well.
Rangers without injured starters Matt Harrison, Alexi Ogando, and Colby Lewis. Holiday fouls it off. They did just get Martin Perez back, though, a guy who had his forearm broken by a line drive in spring training. He was supposed to be in the rotation at the beginning of the year, but obviously set back a long time, made a number of starts in the minors, and returned and pitched very well in last night's game, going 7 innings and giving up just 2 runs, getting the win for the Rangers.
Very impressive, too. Great composure, great command of his pitches, threw off-speed pitches when he was behind in the count. You know, for a young pitcher to come in and be able to do that, that tells you a lot about his makeup.
Of course, they've got a guy at the front of the rotation in Yu Darvish, who's having a terrific year. Although, as you see Perez sitting alongside Ogando, Yu Darvish hasn't won in the last 6 starts, but he's got an ERA of 2.66 in those 6 starts. They're just not scoring any runs for him.
And he was originally scheduled to pitch in tonight's ball game, but because of some of the high pitch counts he's had in a lot of his starts, they wanted to use tomorrow's off day just to give him a little extra day's rest. He'll start Tuesday now in New York.
The next pitch in this at bat will be the 12th. You don't think of Matt Holliday as a foul him off and get to another pitch kind of guy, but he's really battling here with Tepesch. And he'll take the walk.
That's kind of rare to see a young pitcher like Tepesch and a veteran catcher like A.J. Brzezinski, and he shook him off a couple times to go to a 3-2 breaking ball.
And you saw A.J. Brzezinski react there, frustrated at that base on balls, kind of turned around, had a word for Jerry Meals. I think they felt like maybe they had Holliday a few pitches before on a check swing on the 2-2 pitch that Paul Emmel down at first said Holliday did not go. Ran the count to 3-2, and he's able to work the walk.
And left-hander Robbie Ross just now getting up in the bullpen for the Rangers. The finals of the College World Series presented by Capital One get started tomorrow night. It'll be UCLA and Mississippi State in Game 1. The NCAA College World Series tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN and also live on Watch ESPN. It is the best 2 out of 3, and we have somebody in the ballpark with a vested interest in that. The first baseman for the Texas Rangers, Mitch Moreland, is a former Mississippi State Bulldog. Alan Craig, the batter.
I had a vested interest in it too till Oregon State got eliminated. Their coach Pat Casey was a teammate of mine in the minor leagues, so we pull for them.
Well, and I went to USC, so I'm pulling for anyone against UCLA. Go Bulldogs.
Hey, USC had their chance. How'd that work out?
Yeah. Well, every 98.
Ever since you left, they've gone downhill in every sport.
Yeah.
After the 12-pitch walk, now a 2-0 count on Craig. Matt Carpenter with a home run to lead off the bottom of the 6th inning. The only run of the ball game. The Cardinals looking for more now off Tepesch.
And this is where you got to be careful out over the plate. Even when Cardinal hitters ahead in the count, they will look out over the plate, look to drive the ball the other way. Got to continue to pound that sinker down in the zone. Try and get that ground ball.
Sharply hit and threw Beltre into left field. First and second, one out for St. Louis.
Well, he got the sinker in there, but it elevated. It was elevated, and that was the reason he was able to hit it on a line. It turned into a really tough in-between hop for Adrian Beltre. Trying to go in with that sinker, but look, it's up around the belt. And as a result, Craig, who was retired on a similar pitch in his last at-bat, this time makes the adjustment, pulls his hands in, hits the rocket down at Beltre. And that's a play we see him come up with a lot, but this time the in-between hop, unable to get leather on it. And another good opportunity here for the Cardinals. Third time through the order now against Tepesh.
Ross looks ready if needed out of the Texas pen. But Molina and then Freeze, two more right-handed batters coming up for the Cardinals. So will Tepesh stay to face both of them? Big swing and a miss by Molina. Another Cardinal with extraordinary numbers with runners in scoring position. Routine fly ball to center field, 2 down. A.J. Brzezinski looking into the dugout, but Tepesh looks like he will get the opportunity, or will he? No, he will not. Here comes Ron Washington. And he will make the change. Go to the pen for the left-hander Ross. With 2 on, 2 out, and a run in this inning for the Cardinals. The first run of the ball game, courtesy their leadoff hitter Matt Carpenter, who drove one into the bullpen in right field, giving St. Louis a 1-0 lead. Baseball presented by Taco Bell is brought to you by Mazda and the all-new Mazda 6 and Wells Fargo. When people talk, great things happen. The Cardinals lead the Rangers 1-0. We're in the bottom of the 6th here at Busch Stadium. Runners at first and second. 2 down and a pitching change for Texas. Left-hander Robbie Ross is into the game with a 1.53 ERA on the season. This is his 35th appearance. What a find he was for Texas last year, and Booney, he might be having an even better year this year.
Yeah, and it just shows the confidence Ron Washington now has in Robbie Ross. Fastball slider combination, been one of the better setup men in the game, and to go to him against the righty Freeze, no surprise, as Freeze has hit just .245 against lefties this year.
Sharply hit. Beltre finds it and makes the play. Freeze hit it hard, but Beltre, after unable to come up with one like that earlier, makes the play here to win the inning. Adam Wainwright on the mound, looking to become the first 11-game winner in the National League. And he's got a 1-0 lead on the Texas Rangers going to the 7th. Wainwright, 6 shutout innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and lots of curveballs tonight, and good ones.
A little disappointing about the 1 walk.
The 10th walk that he's given up this season. 2 of them have been intentional. Wainwright, by the way, has 3 complete games this year. He and Jordan Zimmerman each with 3 to lead the majors. 0-2 on A.J. Pierzynski.
Well, A.J.'s first at bat, he got a jam shot blooper to right field for a hit. His next at bat, he got another jam shot, and right there is another one. You might want to start it a little early right here. Of course, this is where Wainwright's liable to drop that slow curve on him.
Activity beginning in the St. Louis pen. Pitch count low. Wainwright leading. But Trevor Rosenthal is getting up in the bullpen.
Oh,
another jam shot. That hurt your hands up here?
Yes. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's bad enough he's a left-handed hitter, and that right hand's the top hand. It takes all that shock. I mean, it's just a four-seam fastball that just jumps in his kitchen. He hit it twice.
And they both hurt.
I would imagine the first one hurt a little more than the second, but you think about it, he's catching so many balls with his glove on his right hand, and now he's getting jammed 3 times. I mean, that right hand's going to be iced down after this one.
Mitch Moreland. Curveball for a strike. Take another look at what Crucky mentioned right away. 1, 2.
And the bad thing, he got jammed so bad on the first one, he got jammed on the second one, too. Neither one of those balls caught the barrel.
Wow. Knee-high curveball for strike 1. Letter-high fastball that he blows by you for strike 2.
And so far, this is exactly how he attacked Moreland his last at-bat. Flipped him a strike with the curveball, fastball, and then expanded the zone with that curveball again. Let's see if he does it again or if he elevates that fastball. A lot of different ways he can go.
Bounces in the curveball. Dirt in his cleats. Heavy rains tonight. A delay of 2 hours and 59 minutes prior to the game beginning. Changeup.
He hasn't thrown a lot of them, but he saw Yadier notice that Moreland was able to lay off the breaking ball there, that he started up in the zone. So he goes to the changeup thinking, oh, maybe he'll lay off of this one that I start at the thigh, but the changeup's not going to dive down as much. Moreland able to lay off it, though. What do you got, Crucky?
I got the 7th inning. His velocity's going up from 90 to 93. But this is the thing with Wainwright. He can go any way he wants with it. I think he's going to go fastball in.
And he did. Ground ball to second. 2 down. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, even here locally in the Central Time Zone, is now officially Monday Morning Baseball. After we got started just after 10 o'clock local time. So, Booney, you're double dipping today, I guess. You're finishing a game Monday morning in St. Louis and then starting another one out on the West Coast tomorrow night. And I'm not sure this guy's going to see either one of them.
He got a better chance of seeing the one Aaron's doing tomorrow in Los Angeles than this one.
Aww.
Cardinal fans, though, there's no going home.
Yep.
We stick it out, son.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
maybe not, yeah.
Enough's enough, Dad.
Yeah, Mom might have just overruled.
I mean,
right.
we all have kids. Think about this hour of the night putting the kids in the car. They're asleep at the game. Let's let them sleep. Once they wake up, let's get them in the car.
Let's carry them to the car. Curveball for a strike.
That guy's interviewing the other one with his iPhone, it looks like. Oh, boy.
Various states of consciousness all around the ballpark.
I guess it's better than the dad being asleep.
Cotton candy starting to wear thin on some of these kids.
Up to 93 again. You might have seen Rosenthal get up in the pen and dialed it up a notch.
And Rosenthal continues to throw. So that tells you if he's throwing that much, he's coming in the 8th, I would imagine.
Now the changeup, 3-2.
I mean, he has lost his command. He's gotten 3-2 on 2 guys this inning.
A little more time to think over this pitch. 2 outs, nobody on. 1-0 lead for the Cardinals in the 7th.
And with Rosenthal going and Wainwright up third, it's maybe one deep breath for one last great pitch from Wainwright. Let's see if it's the breaking ball that's been so good for him all night long.
It was Murphy waiting on it, hits it hard, and hits it off the wall on the fly. And beats the relay into second.
Well, when he was behind in the count to Murphy 2-0, he threw him back-to-back curveballs, very similar to this pitch, pitches that just got him back in the count. This one's up, this one's elevated, and Murphy got a good look at this 2-3 pitches ago. This time he waits, he sees it, it doesn't quite have that bite, and he hammers this ball to right and comes very close to tying the score.
So the tying run at second base with 2 down in the 7th, and the batter was Leonis Martin, 0 for 2, a fly ball and a strikeout. Pitcher spot on deck, and Jurickson Profar has come out looking to pinch hit for the Rangers. This is the young man, an infielder, one of the most highly thought of prospects in all of baseball, but really nowhere to play him. The Rangers have decided to keep him up, though, and are kind of using him in a super utility role, a little here, a little there, even a little outfield, some pinch hitting. So not a regular, but getting his fair share of opportunities at the major league level. Again with a runner at second. Perhaps that's the reason why Wainwright and Molina and Cosma need to talk it over again.
Well, this is another situation like Aaron was talking about earlier with Kinsler at second base, another veteran in Murphy out there at second. And there's some teams that have reputations. I don't know if Texas has a reputation of giving location, not so much signs, but location. So Yadier might change things up and sit center of the plate, or like he did, up in the zone and then move late, so Murphy can't give location.
And that was another situation with John where Molina did not even give the sign. It was, let's settle on this pitch. Obviously a one-run game, a runner in scoring position. I know what I want to throw. I'm going to set up late. Executes that little cutter under the hands. That's back-to-back pitches now that have tied Leonis Martin up. Has him really respecting that inside pitch.
And it's where he can go breaking ball and have him out in front of it.
Bounced it in.
You saw Yachty there pound the ground with his glove, saying, get this down. The complete trust, the block doesn't skip far away at all. Now this is where, when the Ranger hitters have laid off that breaking ball in the dirt, where he's gone to the changeup, the one that doesn't bite down as much, say, hey, all right, if you're going to lay off the off-speed pitch down, let's see if you lay off this one that's not going to break as far down.
Elevates with a fastball, but Martin won't bite.
Tell you, that's a really good take right there after jamming him with a couple fastballs, throwing that slow breaking ball. You see fastball there, you get so excited that you swing at anything, and a young player like Martin stays off that pitch, and now he's not that he's in the driver's seat, but he's in a better spot than he was before that pitch.
Takes a curveball low, and the count is full.
Well, this is turning into a really good at-bat from a hitter that's shown a lot of maturity over the last month, really taking hold of the everyday job. He's laid off that breaking ball, that fastball up. I think it's time to go right back in with that fastball or that cutter, John. That's the pitch he hasn't shown he can handle.
Got a piece of it.
Well, he did go right back to that cut fastball. There you see it on the inside corner, the target. able to get a piece of it. That's obviously a pitch he's struggling with, but when you can at least foul it off to extend the at-bat, just obviously increasing the chances, even a guy like Wainwright, as he gets up over 100 pitches, the chance he makes a mistake on the big part of the plate.
Into center field, a base hit. Murphy around third. Jay's throw not in time, and the Rangers have tied it. What an at-bat for Leonys Martin.
Well, he falls behind 0-2, and he shows why he has grabbed a hold of the everyday job. No panic. Lays off a tough breaking ball in the dirt, lays off the elevated fastball. Another breaking ball he's able to lay off. Then he's able to spoil a cut fastball in on his hand before getting a mistake. A fastball down in the strike zone right over the heart of the plate, and he hammers it back up the middle to tie this score up. And the dugout loves it.
Elvis Andrus all fired up. Mike Matheny out to make a double switch as he goes to home plate umpire Jerry Meals. That's going to be the end of the line for Wainwright. There will be no 11th win of the season for Wainwright tonight. Trevor Rosenthal is on his way in as Martin gets the best of Wainwright and ties it up for Texas here in the 7th inning. Youngster Jurickson Profar on deck getting ready to pinch hit. You see Martin at first base after the big RBI single. And Wainwright just could not secure that third out here in the 7th. So a good night for Wainwright, but not good enough to get a W. All tied up at 1. Strikeout number 5 for Wainwright. Fly ball to deep right off the bat of Carpenter. Gone! That gave the Cardinals a 1-0 lead in the bottom of the 6th, but back came the Rangers in the 7th. A 2-out double by David Murphy, and then a clutch RBI single by Leonys Martin. Much to the delight of Elvis Andrus and the rest of the Rangers, the game is tied at 1. Trevor Rosenthal, he of the 100-mile-an-hour fastball into face rookie Jurickson Profar. Profar, the youngest player in the majors, just 20 years of age, pinch hitting in the pitcher spot. Facing Rosenthal, the primary setup man for the most part at this point for the Cardinals. ERA under 2, 53 strikeouts in 37 2/3. And if you haven't seen him, you're about to see why he strikes out so many people. Although he's not just a guy who's up there throwing 100. He's got other pitches too, and he uses them.
He does. He'll throw a straight changeup. That's a very effective pitch for him, especially against left-handed hitters, and an overhand curve from time to time. Profar, the switch hitter, from his better side here, hitting over 280 with both of his home runs coming from the left side of the plate.
And the double switch puts Daniel Descalso at third base, so Freese is out of the game. So Rosenthal in the 6th spot right now and Descalso in the 9 spot. Fastball at 96, looped to short and dropped by Kozma. And the inning will continue.
Well, inexplicable here. Just a routine, lazy pop-up that Kozma just kind of, well, it just clanks. I don't know if he took his eye off it or not. It just hits off the heel of his glove. I don't think it had any weird spin or anything on it.
And an error charge to Kozma. The Cardinals have committed the fewest errors in the National League this year. This one potentially very damaging with a good hitter in Ian Kinsler, good fastball hitter in Ian Kinsler up there trying to give the Rangers the lead. Towards left field, base hit. And Martin around to score. Texas leading 2-1.
Well, Ian Kinsler, we talked about him being the catalyst in this lineup. The patience to get ahead in the count 2-0. And then just looks in a particular spot, selling out on that fastball, and he gets one around the belt and in the middle. And John, he hammers it into left field. Give him the lead.
Now Andrews. Remember, there were 2 outs and nobody on this inning before Murphy doubled, and then again, you can't say enough about the at-bat that Leonis Martin had with the RBI single to tie it. The error on Kozma allowed Kinsler to come up, and he made Rosenthal pay for falling behind in the count.
I don't care how hard you throw, 100 miles an hour, you get behind 2-0. You throw a four-seamer to a guy like Kinsler, if it's in the zone, he's going to put the bat on it.
The Rangers had lost 6 in a row a week ago at this time. Then they had a huge series with Oakland, took 3 out of 4. They have won the first 2 here in St. Louis, and now they have rallied to take the lead here in the final game of the series.
This is the beauty of Ian Kinsler. Very little stride. He just sets his foot down and just waits with his hands. And you know, he reads the pitch out of his hand, middle in. He opens up the hips and he hits a line drive to left field. And there you see Adam Wainwright thinking, oh boy, here we go.
Ooh, 97 up and in.
Hello. 96, John, up around your chin will definitely get your attention. But with 2 strikes now, you got to shake that off, lock it back in, and understand that, is it now? Does he go back to that changeup? Oh, 97 up.
It's kind of not what you're expecting at 12-17. Little 98 up around the noggin.
Sent foul. So Wainwright potentially on the hook for a loss in this game now. 2 runs charged to him. Only one of them earned because the error by Cosma extended the inning and allowed Kinsler to get up, but it still could be a loss for Wainwright. 3-2.
And I'm sure he's over there going over the night in detail, especially this inning. But what pitch is it, do you think, that's causing him the most angst? Is it the breaking ball to Murphy? Is it not being able to finish off Martin? Only Adam knows.
Runners go, fouled back.
Well, you know, we keep talking about Wainwright and you know how well he pitched and, you know, giving up the 1 run and 1 unearned run. But, you know, we have to give Nick Tepesch a lot of credit. He kept his team in the game and gave them a chance. And, of course, Ross coming in to get out of that inning, out of the last inning. But, you know, Tepesch matched him pitch for pitch there for a long time. And, you know, if he gives up 3 runs, this is, you know, Cardinals still lead.
Runners will be on the move again. And a high fly ball down the right field line. Out of play. As we turn our attention to the Texas pen, remember Robbie Ross came in and got the last out of the 6th inning, but Profar hit for Ross. So Neil Kotz, who prior to this season, who hadn't been in the majors since 2009, has done a great job for the Rangers in recent weeks. He is up now, and with Joe Nathan, who knows how this is going to go, but with Joe Nathan having saved games each of the last 3 nights, he could be unavailable right now. So Ron Washington has to find a way to get 9 more outs. In other words, this one ain't over yet.
Then again, that was Saturday night that Nathan saved the game. It is now Monday.
That's true. So he's had an off day.
He's had a complete off day, yeah.
That's a good point.
And when we talked to Ron before the game, he wasn't sure yet if Nathan might have a night off. He said if it was up to him, he definitely won't. If it's up to Nathan, he's saying Nathan always wants the ball.
Inning over. But not before the Rangers take the lead. 2-1, 7th inning stretch. Ball presented by Taco Bell. Go to MLBFanCave.com and pledge your NL or AL allegiance. Don't miss the action of the 2013 All-Star Game Tuesday, July 16th. MLB.TV celebrating 11 years. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live on your favorite supported mobile and connected devices with MLB.TV Premium. Visit MLB.TV for details. Bottom 7, 2-1 Texas. Left-hander Neil Kotz into the game. John Jay leads it off for the Cardinals. And it quickly 0-2.
Well, Dan, you touched on it, how good he's been. 15 games, an ERA .52. He's a fastball cutter slider combination. Remember, a lot of familiarity, too, with A.J. Pierzynski, who was catcher in his best years with the Chicago White Sox. In the past, he's always had his best command to his glove side, away to the lefties, into the right-handed hitters.
And paints away to the left-handed hitting Jay for out number 1. Boy, 93 on the black.
Well, this is what he did so effectively back in the day with the Chicago White Sox when he was a setup guy on their world championship team. You see, pretty much straight over the top, and that four-seam fastball to that outside corner sticks the glove for a big first out.
Here's Kozma, who would love nothing more than to atone for the error that extended the inning and led eventually to the Kinsler base hit that has given the Rangers the lead. And quickly 0-2 on the Cardinal shortstop. Kotz over the last 3-4 years had Tommy John surgery, hip surgery, and a lat injury as well. And that's why prior to this year had not been in the majors since 2009. Got the win in relief in the opening game of this series Friday night. Fly ball to right. 2 down. Now Daniel Descalso came on the double switch. Will get his first at bat of the night. A hearty group of Cardinal fans have stuck out a weather delay of 3 hours at the outset of the game. It is well past midnight here locally as the Cardinals now trail 2-1 in the bottom of the 7th.
A second wind.
Yep. Out of play. We've touched upon this in other games that we've done here. At one point, this is going back a couple of generations, there was no team further west and no team further south than the St. Louis Cardinals. Now you're going back a ways, but the point being they've got fans all over the place. They've got fans who drive from hundreds of miles away and make weekends or even longer than that out of trips here to St. Louis.
You saw how many there were at our hotel. I mean, everywhere you went, in the lobby, anywhere, it was all Cardinals. A few Rangers fans mixed in there, but you know, they travel well. They come here from, like you said, miles and miles away. This was always one of the most fun place to come play because you knew the place was going to be packed for one. The fans were going to be loud, but they were also very courteous. If you made you
feel like Philadelphia.
Similar, but if you made a good play in the field, they would actually cheer you when you came off the field, and that didn't happen in Philly. I can tell you that, not for the opponent anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, coming here all the years in the National League Central playing for the Cincinnati Reds, no matter what hotel you stayed at, all summer long, it was just all you saw was Cardinal jerseys, T-shirts, hats on 95% of the people in the town, staying at your hotel, vacations, summer plans, all planned around the beloved Cardinals.
I don't know about you guys, but I woke up this morning and there's pictures all up on the wall of my hotel of Cardinals players.
Yep.
History lesson every time you come here.
Descalso battling the count 2-2. Fouls off another one. Off day for both teams tomorrow. Although Texas will be flying middle of the night, as it turns out, now to New York. Start a series Tuesday night against the Yankees. Full count now on Descalso. The Cardinals are headed for some interleague play. They've got series upcoming in Houston, Oakland, and Anaheim. And a bouncer to second to end the inning. As we mentioned, you got to give it up for these Cardinal fans. Although, well, this Texas fan, he doesn't have quite the stuff to stay awake. Same with some of the young Cardinal fans here at Busch as well. 2-1 Texas N7. Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by Toyota Scion. See your local Scion dealer. And welcome back to St. Louis. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Aaron Boone, Buster Olney. Sunday night baseball now. Monday morning baseball here in the Central Time Zone. Rangers lead the Cardinals 2-1. Top 8. Right-hander Seth Maness into the game for the Cardinals. One of those 10 rookie pitchers that Aaron was referring to a little bit earlier. I'm told it's now 11. It's happening so fast we've lost track. Now 11 rookie pitchers have appeared in a ball game for the Cardinals this year, with Michael Blazek making his major league debut last night. Maness 4-1. Has given up a lot of hits, but has not given up that many runs. He's managed to minimize the damage as he just keeps Nelson Cruz in the ballpark for out number 1.
Well, he's one of the few Cardinal relievers that doesn't come out of the pen with a blazing fastball. You talked to manager Mike Matheny about him, talking about his pitchability and his ability to understand the situation, and as a result, he has pitched out of a lot of tough situations. Just a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, very good changeup. Occasional curve, occasional slider. But that kind of command right there, down in the zone, real good feel for pitching.
A strike at the knees to Adrian Beltre, who's 0 for 3. More activity now in the Cardinal pen. As that pitch is just outside a ball and a strike. Veteran left-hander Randy Choate is up. Really your ultimate left-handed specialist. Just a batter or two, and presumably getting ready to face the lefties who are coming next: Pierzynski, Moreland, Murphy, and possibly Martin if it gets down that far. So a whole slew of left-handed batters. Foul ball. Neil Kotz coming out of the Texas pen looking very sharp. Tanner Scheppers is now up in the Rangers pen.
Imagine Kotz will come back out. They face the left-hand hitting Carpenter to start off the 8th inning.
And Amena strikes out a Beltre, 2 down. And here comes Mike Matheny. And he has made the call to the pen for the left-hander Choate with Pierzynski due up. So we'll step aside here at Busch with the Rangers leading 2-1. Welcome back to St. Louis, where the Texas Rangers have a 2-1 lead. Got 2 runs in the top of the 7th inning to take a 1-run lead. They're looking to sweep this series against the team with the best record in all of baseball. Left-hander Randy Choate is into the game now for the Cardinals. 27 appearances and a total of 15 1/3 innings. And the reason why, he'll usually come in just to face a left-handed batter or 2. Might face a little bit more than that here tonight just because there are so many lefties lined up in the Texas batting order right now. 2 outs, nobody on, and here's his first challenge in A.J. Pierzynski.
Fastball slider from Choate. He'll drop down kind of a low 3/4 and create that deception.
Pierzynski lines it foul.
He was getting eaten up inside by Wainwright all night, and he figured, you know what, I'm going to get out on this one quicker.
Now to play 0-2. Texas has won 5 out of 6. If the Cardinals lose tonight, it'll be a 3-game losing streak for them, and it would be just the 2nd time of the entire season that they would have lost 3 in a row. And the Pirates won today, and the Reds won today, or yesterday, Sunday. Pirates beat the Angels 10-9 in a wild game in extra innings. Inning over. Going bottom 8. Here come the Cardinals down a run. You think St. Louis and Texas, you can't help but think a little bit about the 2011 World Series. David Freese with the home run in the 11th inning of Game 6 to force Game 7. The Cardinals would win that game and win the World Series. Here the Rangers lead 2-1 as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Neil Cott's back on the mound, and Matt Carpenter, who homered in the 6th, accounting for the only Cardinal run tonight, will lead it off. He'll be followed by Carlos Beltran and then Matt Holliday. Tanner Shepard, a right-hander, is up in the Rangers' pen. Maybe a rally cap will get something going for the Cardinals, who have lost the first 2 games of this series. High strike, 1-2. Carpenter hitting .271 against left-handers this year. One decision Ron Washington will have to make, and we'll find out shortly, is does he leave Kotz to face Beltran, the switch hitter, or does he go to Shepard? Beltran's got better numbers from the left side this year, so you would assume that Kotz would stay so that Beltran would bat from the right side, and then Shepard would come in after that to face all the right-handed batters.
Because we still don't know if Joe Nathan is available. So this could be, if Kotz can get the first 2 outs of the inning and bring Shepard in for a 4-out save, if Nathan isn't available.
Nathan picking up saves each of the last 3 days.
That tells me all I need to know right there. I think he's available with the day off tomorrow, chance to sweep the Cardinals.
It drops in for a base hit. And he wants the right-hander. Again, the numbers say Beltran's a more dangerous hitter from the left side. That's the side he's going to bat from, with Shepard on his way in. Off man aboard for St. Louis, and here comes Carlos Beltran. Ron Washington made the switch to Tanner Shepard, who has been an absolute revelation for the Rangers this year. Aaron, why the move?
Well, he's been their best pitcher, quite frankly, out of the bullpen. He's been a great setup man. You see the ERA and the whip both under 1. He is a fastball up around 96 miles an hour on average, a wipeout slider. One thing, John, you said between the break, though, is This opens up that right side for Carlos Beltran, who's a pull hitter.
He gets that top hand over quick. He can roll one through that hole and have a first to third situation with Carpenter at first.
Great stop. One, Shepard's over to cover. There won't be a throw as Beltran will reach on the fielder's choice. Boy, he went looking for that hole, didn't he?
Well, that's his way of hitting. I mean, gets that top hand over quick and pulls the majority of his ball. But a great play by Moreland. And, you know, the ball was hit hard enough that Shepard was late covering the base. Andrus was looking to throw, but Shepard just didn't get over. I mean, look at the hesitation. He's become a spectator. He thought that ball was through. By the time he reacts, Beltran beats him to the base, and Andrus smartly, has to hold on to the ball. But, I mean, this is a great play by Moreland. If Moreland was a right-hander, that ball might get past, might get through for the first and third. But, and look how far he came off the base, too. He wasn't guarding for the no doubles, which a lot of teams in the eighth inning will do.
So now Holiday. Tying run at first, one out in the bottom of the eighth. Holiday 0 for 2 with a walk.
Now, if Holiday right here hits a double, then it's on Shepard for not covering first.
.97 but low, ball 2.
If I'm Matt Holiday right here, I'm looking for something hard, and I'm looking for something center away, and trying to drive one to right center field.
Pops him up. Room in foul territory for Moreland. 2 down.
Well, he was thinking along with you, John. But again, give Shepard, really give the entire Texas Ranger pitching staff tonight credit for consistently being able to get the ball in on these great Cardinal hitters, especially their right-handed hitters. Just unable to get his arms extended there. Chases a little bit up, a little bit in. Another week out. Outstanding execution by Shepard.
So 2 down, and here's Alan Craig. And a strike. Boy, 97 with some run on it.
Yeah, Alan Craig kind of shaking his head a little bit there, thinking that was a little bit too far in. That pitch, even on the inside corner, is a pitch these Cardinal hitters want to lay off. They want the ball out over the plate. That's the pitch they do the most damage with.
Broken bat, weakly hit to second. Great job by Shepard, and the inning is over. End of 8 in St. Louis. Texas leading 2-1. honored with Joe Nathan to be available after picking up saves each of the last 3 nights. Looks like he could have a save situation, and it looks like he's available as Joe Nathan in the bullpen, struggling some, but eventually getting off what he needs to get off and getting ready and getting up and starting to throw.
Those darn pullovers, Dan.
Hey, at 1 in the morning, everything's tougher. 2-1 Texas. A rain delay of 2 hours and 59 minutes before the game began. Randy Choate back out there for the top of the 9th. Mitch Moreland leading it off for the Rangers. The key inning was the top of the 7th when Texas scored both of their runs. There were 2 outs and nobody on when David Murphy doubled off Adam Wainwright. Then Leonys Martin had a great at bat, culminating in a game-tying RBI single. Jurickson, a Profar, a pinch hitter, hit a little pop-up to short that was dropped by Pete Kozma. So the inning continued, and then Ian Kinsler singled home Martin to give Texas the lead. 1 down. Well, let's show you some of what happened. Martin lighting the ball right past Wainwright into center field. Murphy in easily to score. Profar with a pop-up drop by Kozma. And then on a 2-0 pitch, Kinsler lining one into left field to score Martin. Adam Wainwright could get stuck with a loss here tonight despite pitching very well. One of the runs would be unearned, but it would still be an L for Wainwright and the Cardinals, and a sweep for the Rangers if Joe Nathan can get it done in the bottom of the 9th. David Murphy is swinging a miss. And you see swings like that every now and again against Randy Choate. It's a big hit by Murphy to get it started, and if memory serves, guys, it came on a curveball that had been such an effective pitch for Wainwright all night long, but he got that one up. One
of the few mistakes he made with that breaking ball. He was burying it down at the feet of lefties and away to lefties, and he hung one to Murphy, and really lucky the ball stayed in the ballpark. He just hit it too much on the line.
Just outside. Looking ahead to the bottom of the 9th, Yadier Molina will lead it off. Then the pitcher spot, that presumably would be Matt Adams pinch hitting. And then John Jay, 5, 6, 7. It's just inside.
And some really good takes here by Murphy. Laid off a tough slider just off the plate away. That one just down to the point Randy Choate stepped off and kind of shook his head and said, "You took my best 2-strike pitches that I want to get you to chase." Yadier again suggesting that fastball in for the 2nd time. Just Choate unable to get it in there.
And a chopper charged by Kozma just in time for out number 2. Choate wants a new ball. He'll face another left-handed batter in Leonys Martin. More Major League action coming your way beginning later on tonight, effectively. Out west, Giants and Dodgers. Mr. Boone will be there. Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. Wednesday night, the Rangers and the Yankees at 7 Eastern, brought to you by T-Mobile. And a week from tonight, Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. The Yankees and the Orioles from Camden Yards. Martin extending the hitting streak to 9 with that RBI single earlier tonight. Quickly in the hole, 0-2.
This is one of the perils of having your 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th hitters all hitting left-handed. You open yourself up and you become very susceptible to a left-hander specialist like Choate.
And the inning is over. To the bottom of the 9th, Yadier Molina, the National League's leading hitter, will lead it off for the Cardinals. And Joe Nathan is looking for his 4th save in as many games, including his 3rd in a row in this series here in St. Louis. He of the 300-plus saves in his career, on his way in to try to protect a 1-run lead. Ninth, Texas 2, the Cardinals 1. Yadier Molina, the National League's leading hitter, will lead it off for the Cardinals. And he will face a pitcher in Joe Nathan, who has 322 career saves.
And having another great year out of the bullpen for the Texas Rangers. Doesn't throw as hard as he once did in his great years with the Minnesota Twins, but still an excellent fastball, good command of it, a tremendous slider and curveball.
First time this year he pitches 4 consecutive days, although as the guys were saying a little bit earlier, it's technically Monday, so who knows how we determine this. But 4 games in a row for Nathan. And a strike to Molina.
There's a good look at that good slider, 87 mile an hour on the corner away.
A ball and a strike. Pitcher's spot due up next. Down in the on-deck circle, a big fella, Matt Adams, 6'3", 260. Dangerous hitter. They're trying to get him playing time wherever they can, mostly as a pinch hitter these days. Got some pop. One and two on Molina. So it'll be Molina, Adams, and then John Jay. Jammed him, and a pop-up. Kinsler, one down.
Another example right there, John, of a Texas Ranger pitcher getting in effectively against these Cardinal hitters. They're so good at covering the outside part of the plate, whether you throw them a breaking ball or not. Let's take a look at the sequence. A slider on the corner for the strike to start him. Then he tried to expand. Then Yachty got probably his best pitch of hit, a fastball down the middle. Then he runs that fastball up and in on the hands. You see Molina diving out there. He's got great plate coverage away. This one ties him up, gets the lazy pop-up.
Out Adams laces a ball into right field, a base hit. And he's probably going to be lifted for a pinch runner, and he will. Shane Robinson comes out.
It's that easy. Sit there for 15 hours, and first pitch you see off one of the best closers in baseball, you just get a line drive single to right field. And that's the pitch of Joe Nathan. That's his out pitch, that slider. Luckily, Adams hit that ball on the line. If he hits it in the air, we got a tie game. Look at how short and compact that swing is. There's nothing. I mean, that's a swing that you can tell is going to play for a long time in Major League Baseball because it's so short and quick.
So the tying run at first with one out in the bottom of the ninth, and the batter is John Jay.
Robinson is a threat to run over there. He does have 3 stolen bases on the season. Joe Nathan, though, many closers you'll see come in, not do a great job of controlling the running game, but another one of those intangibles we talked about with Wainwright. Nathan does a pretty good job of being quick to home plate. So if Robinson is going to lead from first, he's going to have to make sure he gets a really good jump.
The concern with Nathan is throws as many sliders he does. If he bounces one, even if it just gets past AJ a little bit, Robinson with his speed can advance to second.
0-2 on Jay. Oakland lost earlier today, so if Texas can hang on and win this one, they'd be a game up in the American League West, and the Cardinal lead in the National League Central would be down to a game because Pittsburgh won on Sunday, defeating the Angels.
And speaking of that slider in the dirt, John, if you're not going, if you're Robinson, that's where you've got to be really cognizant. And if you recognize it early as being a pitch that's headed for the dirt, that's a pitch as a runner that you want to try and really roll into your secondary lead so that even if Pierzynski does a good job of blocking, you're in a position to advance.
Washington's team looking for a sweep here in St. Louis. Mike Matheny's team has only lost 3 in a row once the entire season, and that was back in April. No pitch, I don't believe.
A long wait there. Yeah. John Jay was granted timeout at the last second, but Nathan, along with being pretty quick to home plate, we've seen him throw over a couple times. We're now seeing him vary his times that he holds the ball, really making it difficult for Robinson to get a real good read from first if he's thinking about running.
Towards left field, a base hit. Up to second goes Robinson.
Normally with the runner on first base, you'd like to see him try to utilize that hole between first and second, but You know, John Jay hits his pitch away with 2 strikes. You're just up there protecting, and he got the bonus plan. He protected and he got a base hit. And now Cosma's going to be asked to bunt these runners to second and third. I would still bunt him with 1 out.
Two on, 1 out, Cosma. 2-1, Texas leads, bottom of the 9th.
You're a right-handed hitter. What are you looking for here, Aaron?
Well, I'm trying to lay off anything in. I know he's got the great slider. I've got to try and work the ball the other way.
Line to third, and that's your ball game. What a way to end a strange night here in St. Louis. As Cosma lines into the double play, and the Rangers win 2-1 and sweep the series here at Busch Stadium.
And we saw Joe Nathan there look at the camera and say he's tired, but he's got the Gold Glover behind him as Beltre times his leap perfectly, spears it. The runner moving on the pitch. Easy flip to second. Ball game, and another big series now for the Texas Rangers as they sweep the Cardinals.
So Joe Nathan saves all 3 games in this series and his 4th in as many nights. And Leonis Martino had the great at bat, the RBI single that tied the game. That hit coming off Adam Wainwright. He is tonight's Chevrolet Player of the Game. It took a while to get going here tonight. A rain delay of 2 hours and 59 minutes at the outset, but it was worth the wait for the Texas Rangers. What a good week they've had, taking 3 out of 4 from Oakland, and then coming here and sweeping the series from the St. Louis Cardinals. So they have won 6 out of 7, and they are now a game ahead of Oakland in the American League West after the A's lost to the Mariners earlier today. Major League Baseball continues tonight, Monday night at 10 Eastern. The Giants take on the Dodgers in Los Angeles. SportsCenter is next here on ESPN. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For John Kruk, Aaron Boone, and Buster Olney, I'm Dan Schulman, thanking you for staying up late with us tonight and saying so long from St. Louis.